me.
Hey, Janine, good to see you.
Hi, Joe. I don't know if anybody's thanked you for all the posting you've been doing about Diane.
Yeah, I've got a couple of people who have sent some positive feedback. Thanks very much. It's I think it's the least we can do to remember her a little bit.
Sorry about the noise, Wendy.
It's okay, Joe. I didn't mind it.
I'm wondering if we might come up with a little more permanent kind of remembrance for Diane, maybe renaming a library or putting a sketching award together or something like that. Might be something to think about.
Good idea.
Both good ideas. Absolutely.
What about the blanket, what you've made with all the stars?
What happened to Chris?
Somebody's giving us some static.
Yeah, it sounds like ducks or something.
Which Chris were you asking about, Reg?
Well, your image disappeared on the screen there, so there you are back again. Janine's here. Hi, Janine.
He's eating through the back office.
Alex, do you want to mute yourself and just see if it's your fan?
Yep, that's what it is.
Yay.
Good memory from last time.
Yeah.
Not too much Leonid watching tonight, is there?
No.
Well, back in the old days, we would have had our AGM banquet on the probably last weekend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any thoughts on the AGM yet in terms of whether it's going to be an in-person event or virtual?
I think it's definitely going to be a virtual. We're kicking around the day of Monday, February 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah, I think even if these vaccines kind of pan out, it's going to be, I think the summer or the fall till we can really kind of get back to normal.
A little more likely with the Moderna one because it's a single dose as opposed to the Pfizer one, which is a 2-dose vaccine.
Yeah, well, there's still a few questions about both of them. So
Yeah. Well, the Moderna one will be a little easier to distribute because you won't need a -75 F cooler, which don't just hang on trees.
that's right.
So likely to be able to distribute it better. And apparently it's a little easier to produce. So, but it's funny how you hear the talk about how it's 95% effective. Well, that's kind of a misleading statistic because they have 30,000 people in the trial. And of those 30,000, 100 people came down with COVID so far, of which only 5 had been vaccinated in the double-blind trial. That's how they got the 95% effective. But we don't know if that's what's going to show up over the long haul with that vaccine.
There were more people than that, a lot more.
30,000 people, but only 100 got the COVID. 95 of which were placebo, and only 5 were COVID. Were vaccinated. So that's how they got to 95. So the stats are a little on the misleading side.
Yeah. Is it the same for the other one as well, Dave?
Don't know the details. My wife didn't tell me what she saw on that.
I think that's okay for preliminary, but I wouldn't bank on anything like that.
Yeah,
that's not really good statistical design.
Well, and the other thing is we don't know how long the immunity is going to last. They haven't run the trial long enough to kind of figure that out. On the other side, we don't know if those who got vaccinated and came down with the virus, whether or not it's affected the severity of the illness. Even that would be a bit of a win if it did reduce the severity of the illness.
That's what most vaccines are. You may get the disease anyway, but it won't be severe. They don't expect it to be 100%.
No. Well, the target initially
no vaccine ever has been.
Yeah. The target initially of success was 50%. Literally, if half of the people who got the vaccine got sick, that was an indicator of success.
Yeah. You can't hear, I guess.
Yeah. My niece got pertussis, even though she'd been vaccinated, in a serious case of it. So they don't, it's not 100, no vaccine is 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
Except maybe polio.
Yeah, polio is pretty consistent, but you're right. There's a lot that, you might get vaccinated, but there is a slim chance that you'll come down with an attenuated form of the disease.
Mm-hmm. Well, mild is always better than full-fledged.
Yeah.
Reg, you talked about Astronomy Day last week, and I've been giving it some thought, and maybe we should attempt on doing a virtual this year, rather than not doing anything at all.
Well, plenty of time to kick it around.
Yeah.
Is there any possibility that the museum would be interested in partnering with the astronomy community on a virtual astronomy day? I mean, they've been very good partners for the last few years, at least in letting us use their space.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Why we couldn't maybe approach them. I could talk to Kim about it, see what she thinks.
It'd be interesting to see if they have done something like that with other groups.
Well, Lauri, you remember when we attended that Science Educators Forum or conference?
Yes.
It could follow a very similar format. I mean, people could have pre-recorded stuff. We could do live stuff. We could do panel stuff. I mean, there's lots of opportunities.
And if they could help us with some of the technical stuff.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that if we gave people enough notice, we could just get different parts of the community. We could get maybe Shawnigan Lake, we could get Camosa,
yeah.
UVic,
Yeah.
and all the people up the island too. I mean,
And Nanaimo.
Yeah, Nanaimo. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, you could do a variety of techniques too. You could use like a Zoom get together. You could do a webinar. You could just push a talk. There's all sorts of things that you could do.
Yeah, and something we haven't really tried was using breakout rooms.
Yes.
Though there was some complications in the science educators forum we were at, but it is commonly used. The breakups are commonly used.
Yeah.
So we could do that. We could sort of create kind of a conference, and people can pick their talks ahead of time and just go off into the breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a little bit after the half hour. Welcome to the Victoria Centre Astro Cafe for November 16th. Good to see so many people here this evening. Just have a couple of announcements before we get into some other things. Just a reminder that Lauri and I have calendars.
Yes.
Not have so much glare. So that information was in the Zoom announcement. So email either me or Lauri, and we'll try and arrange to meet up and get one to you. I have some people I'm waiting to hear back from. So if you remember, if you've mentioned to me that you want a calendar and you haven't got a calendar yet, could you reach out and let me know what might work for you? Just a reminder too that we have an annual general meeting coming up that was discussed a little bit earlier. It will be in February, probably around the 22nd or so. We do have some people leaving their positions, including Reg as president. So we will be seeking nominations for council positions. I'm planning to start this week reaching out to the people who are currently on council in a designated position or as a director at large, just to confirm whether or not he would like to continue in that position. And of course, then we'll be opening nominations at any time. So if you are interested in stepping forward, we have a couple of key positions, obviously the president and vice president that we need to fill, and we may have some others. And unfortunately, we will now need a librarian, which leads us into our, the first thing I'd like to put on the floor for this evening. I think everybody was totally devastated to hear of that Diane had died last week. I had actually stopped by to deliver a calendar to her on Monday, and she didn't seem her normal self, but I mean, who would have thought, this was what was going to happen. I think she was, an incredible member of the center. She'd been the newsletter editor, currently the librarian. She was a member in charge. She did all sorts of things. She was a stalwart volunteer at the Saturday Star Parties, always there at Astronomy Day, Saanich Fair. It can go on and on and on. And to lose somebody at such a young age, so suddenly, I didn't know what to say. So I've been kind of somewhat unable to say too much about it, although, she's certainly in my thoughts. And I thought we should start off tonight by providing an opportunity for people to share reminiscences or say some things about her. So I'll turn over the floor. Who would somebody like to go first? Maybe Reg as president?
Okay, well, like you, and I think almost everybody was totally taken by surprise by this development. I realized I sent out a notice. First of all, I contacted Lenia, the sister-in-law of Diane's, just to get permission to send out a message to the group. And I was really heartened by the lovely outpouring of messages, heartfelt messages, and it was really evident that she touched the heart of so many of us. And she had such a, what you would say, a welcoming presence, and she was just such a special person, and I think it hit home with everyone, and a lot of lovely tributes were written, and Joe Carr kindly assembled them on a web page, and I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have read through them. And she had a real major impact on us all. I know from my point of view, it was a very difficult week, but it was a blend of both sorrow and gratitude. Sorrow that we're losing a friend, but gratitude that she was such a vibrant and active member of our club and Victoria Center, and she contributed so much. So I have a lot of happy memories of my times with Diane myself, but maybe I should just pass it to the floor if anybody else wants to share some thoughts.
Thank you, Reg. Somebody else like to say a few words?
Well, Diane was certainly a personal friend of mine right from pretty well the day she joined Victoria Center, and we've done some traveling together, and I think the highlight, both in my mind and hers, I would presume to say, is when she went down to the solar eclipse in Oregon. And it was a pretty special time for her. I know she was just absolutely ecstatic to make it down there and share the experience with Lauri and John and Reg and Maureen, and it was a special time for all of us, I think. Very exciting and highly rewarding. And yes, the memorial I've been building is on the Victoria Center website, so you can just go to the victoria.rasc.ca and see the tributes there. And I have a link to the photo album, which memorializes Diane as well. So I think I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
I think another one that we will remember is being down in Arizona with you, Gary, and with other people that went down with us there over the years. Diane really, really loved that. And sorry. I can just remember her creeping out of bed at about 3 o'clock in the morning and getting dressed and going outside and getting her great big huge binoculars that she had. Everybody remembered these great big binoculars. And she would sit in a very specific place in order to be able to see Omega Centauri. And then I would kind of haul myself out of bed about 2 hours later and wrap myself in blankets and go out, and she'd just be thrilled beyond compare that she'd already spent a couple of hours out there. So lots of memories. Sorry.
It certainly was enthusiasm personified, that's for sure. One of those mornings at 3:30 in the morning, she bangs on my door to get me up and drags me out to the observatory, and we're looking at Omega Centauri, and I'm thinking to myself, we're having fun, aren't we? But Diane was just thrilled to pieces, and she scampered up and down that stepladder beside the big telescope a whole pile of times. I was pretty impressed how quickly she did it. So good for her, you know. She just loved it, and she loved being part of this club too. This was a big part of her life. So I'm very thankful to everybody in this club for being part of her life. Thank you very much.
She liked to tell us about how her father, who knew the sky he was Air Force and he navigated by the stars. And so he taught her as a little girl, and they lived up in Cold Lake, which had good dark skies, and they would stay up all night and he'd show her the constellations. And as far as I can tell, she knew the sky better than anybody in this club. And she would see something up there and say, it's just a gift. I feel it's a gift, the sky. And she just would show such love and such affection for this world that we live in. And I feel that one of the ways that we have to honor her memory is to keep enjoying the sky, this gift that we're all given.
She certainly had enthusiasm, and it was catching. I don't think any of us that spend any time in the night sky with Diane could fail to pick up some of her excitement. I'm quite probably immodestly proud of a lot of the pictures that I've taken, but one picture that I'm particularly pleased that I was able to get was one of Diane up on a ladder looking through the 25-inch telescope down in Arizona. And you can just tell she's so happy. And I will treasure that picture forever.
You know, the fact that she's affected more or less all of us in such similar ways, to me really speaks to her authenticity with whoever she met. And I'm sure that applied to the people that she reached out to with outreach. I posted that we pitched our tents side by side at the first chosen Star Party I went to, and her welcome and her genuine welcome and abiding welcome to me has really been an inspiration for how I treat newcomers to astronomy activities and outreach. It's also not just the welcome, but then the consistent welcoming after and inviting in. And I also so admired her creativity. I mean, we all bring different ways of doing public outreach, but her creation of the constellation blanket and the black light, I didn't ever see it in action, but I did want to ask you, Lauri, she told me, I think a couple of years ago, how excited she was to be going to Saturna to do her own gig. And I don't know if you might do you know how that went? Because it was really her having her own show, and she was really excited about it. Although, of course, she didn't say it like that.
I think it was Pender.
Oh, Pender.
Too. And oh yeah, that worked out really well. Yeah, she really enjoyed that. So that was great. They've already invited us back again if we can do it again in August to try it again, but we'll see whether we can go. But that was for the parks, for the Parks Canada program. We'd love to get her blanket if anybody, but we'd love to have that. That would be a real gift from her family if we could have that.
Yeah, this was, of course, a terrible shock, right out of the blue, and even in a year like this, and in what I wrote after, of course, the first thing I thought of, I think very much of that blanket and how great she was at public outreach, and also a lot of us have masks that she made for us. That was a time when you couldn't get any masks, and that was such a great one. And uh, uh, you know, I'm certainly going to hang on to that, or any other pandemics or anything else that come my way while I'm still around. Yeah, there just seemed to be nobody else like her. I love to, I spent a lot of my summers growing up near Coal Lake, and so I love to talk to her about when she lived up there, but also just her time in Europe, growing up in the shadow of the Cold War and all that. It was always fascinating, and I'm going to miss that. And we were talking a little bit before the meeting got started, about some way to honor her, and there have been a couple of great ideas advanced. Maybe this isn't the time to decide on that, but I think we have to think about that, because we have her all right here, but I think we can do more than that.
Well, people mentioned that she had a real knowledge of the night sky, but she had a terrific pattern recognition ability, a real gift. And I thought that was restricted to stars, but when we were down in Arizona, we had an opportunity to go to a thing called the Pima Aviation Museum. And it's the third largest aviation museum in the world. And talk about pattern recognition. She could identify all of these planes, and this was another one of her little areas of expertise. She was very proud that her father was a test pilot for the Canadian Air Force, and she just sucked in so much information. She really had a remarkable mind, and I got such a charge out of watching her. I almost have all of these statistics in the back of her mind and the exact name of the plane. She didn't have to look at any of the signs or anything like that. She could pick it away from across the room. And she was like a little kid there as well. Great memory.
Perhaps I'll just pop up the blanket that several people are talking about. I don't know if everyone is familiar with it or not. It's quite grand. So this is Erin and her beside the blanket that they used up at Observatory Hill. I don't know if she had more than one or not. I wasn't too close to it. And you talk about patterns. Well, the patterns even ended up on rocks. So it was pretty amazing.
Just wanted to say about Diane's contributions and constant support of Friends of the DAO. Once we started doing the star parties, she was up there nearly every week, and she was always so enthusiastic about everything. We did very early on in our existence, we did the a lunar eclipse, and she was calling about baking cookies very early on in that. It wasn't just blankets and it wasn't just masks, it was cookies too. And they were those distinctive cookies with the crescent symbol ready for the moon. But she was not only up on Saturday nights, of course. When we started opening during the day, she would be one of our stalwart volunteers to help the public see the observatory and see the center of the universe during the daytime. She was ubiquitous, always helpful, always cheerful, and we're going to miss her. I did want to make, on a personal note, also about this time, my son Asher had a popcorn business, which he used to sell popcorn on Saturday nights, much to the somewhat chagrin of some of you. I'm sorry, getting the butter on the lenses and things like that. for the general public doing that anyway. But Usher, at the time, he used to also sell popcorn at the Bastion Square Market. And Diane was one of his principal customers. And this was sort of before she put two and two together and realized who was who. And she said to me, you know, on one Saturday night, there's this young autistic man who sells popcorn at the Bastion Square Market. Do you know him? I said, well, you know, have you seen that guy with me on Saturday night sometimes? So I was kind of touched by that. Anyway, we will miss her, and we are so grateful for all of her contributions, her enthusiasm, her cookies, her blankets, and her help with nearly everything. Bye, Diane.
I'd just like to add, in addition to all these wonderful things that everyone has said, that I always noticed when anyone posted anything on Zenfolio or a picture anywhere, she was one of the first people always to respond with such enthusiasm and support. Despite her many talents herself, she was always there to compliment everyone else and bring out the best in everyone else. We'll really miss her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, like she said, that's going to be a lasting legacy in RASC. And like Ben has just said, she loved baking cookies, and I think me and her were kind of like baking allies. I tell you, she made some of the best Rice Krispie squares up at the DAO that I've ever had, and I feel bad about how many I ate. So, yeah, we're gonna miss her very much.
I'd like to share the screen.
Please, Randy.
So while she was working on her Messier project, which I think was the second time she was going through them, but this time she was sketching them. And then she was through her list enough that she had to wait for the sky to come around till the next, what was left on her list would come around. So she made this beautiful quilt of the Pleiades. And I just think it's so beautiful and quite accurate. The different sizes of the different magnitude stars there.
Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Would you put that up on Zenfolio as well?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And Lauri, didn't Diane also participate in the RASC national competition for art?
There we are. Yes, she put in a quilt into the Imagining the Sky photography and art contest that we had as well. Yes, she did. Yeah, you're one of the only people who did that extra kind of art program. Do you remember that, Jim Hesser?
Yes, I do indeed.
Yeah, yeah. I also just wanted to say that Diane also sang, and she would bring her guitar up to the center while we were having some school programs, and she would sing, and she brought it up sometimes on Saturday night as well, and she helped her church an awful lot in a lot of ways as well for in her singing and her music expertise. So she was a lady with an awful lot of talents.
I also want to bring up that it was her drawing the Messier objects that inspired me to get sketching. And I think it is clear to me that I started seeing more in the sky when I started sketching. It's a aspect of our work that until you do it, you don't realize how wonderful it is. And there's no question that she's the one who inspired me to do it.
Could I share the screen, Chris?
Please.
When we were at let's see here, they keep changing this version on me. At the AGM last year, I did a little bit on a little thing on the honorable mention of this sketchy group of rascals. So I'm just gonna try and play this and just want to show the one thing here. But basically, can you see that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Whoop. This is at the very beginning. I messed up. I'll go down here. Yeah. So I'll try and
play from current slide. Yeah.
Current slide. Yeah. Okay. So here we are. So I will during the last AGM, I wanted to spotlight some of the sketchers in the group, and just so happened that the first one was Philip Teese, who passed away in 2018, and we received from his family a beautiful recipe box full of little gorgeous sketches that he did, like this one for each of the Messier objects, and so so these were scanned in by Joe Carr and are on Zenfolio, and I think that Diane was also very active in that. But Diane got her Messier certificate in 2014, and they changed some sort of regulation where you had to possibly sketch them to qualify for the certificate thereafter. So she went down and bought a little plastic covered blue book with spiral bound and made a little outline for each of the for 110 Messier objects and pasted it in. And for the next 3 years, I rarely saw her without that book, and she was madly sketching away with these things. So down in Arizona, I was up there one night with her, and I took this picture of this thing M46, and darn it if she didn't let's see here, I've got a problem with pictures hiding it. She sketched it, and it looks to me to be a little bit of steel wool here in a way, but then I started looking at these stars and this star here, and she accurately captured all of this stuff. So she was really studying hard, and even some of these smaller stars here can be found in the star field. And here's a picture that John took of her up on the 25-inch. It was just a wonderful thing, and it's funny that I'm glad we highlighted her contribution there. So she actually finished this book in the I guess it was the fall of 2019. So she had completed all those sketches, and I talked to Linnea, her sister-in-law. I said, if you please search out that book, and we would really like to scan in all of those sketches and put them on Zenfolio. So, now I'm in trouble. Can't seem to be able to get out of this thing, guys.
There, I'll turn it off for you, Reg.
Thanks very much.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for your reminiscences that you shared. Does anybody else have anything else?
Yeah, it's Bill.
Please go ahead, Bill.
I want to take somewhat responsibility for driving her to that obsession of the sketching, because I was the one who approved her Messier certificate and filled in her papers to send in to national. And actually my giving her that award at RGA when we had the national one here is one of the highlights of my being within the RASC. And Reg, it isn't a requirement to do the sketching. It's highly recommended. And it's sort of what I suggested to her when I reviewed her thing, because she'd done most of the essays with her big binoculars. So the observations were kind of sketchy and I knew she'd done them. And so that's why I approved it, because even though her observations were kind of like mine were when I did the Messier certificate, you know, nobody had given me any guidance and it was just go through them. And so I said, you know, it'd be really great, you know, like relook at them with your bigger scopes and stuff like that. And, you know, if you do some sketching, it really will help you to see the objects better and you'll take a little more time and not just, yeah, there I saw it. And I didn't know it was going to send her down that path of like 5 years of working way too hard at it and pushing it. But it's nice because it gave her some real focus, which really helps people sometimes to keep this whole thing fresh, as we often are prone to just keep looking at the same things and doing the same things over and over again. Whereas if you try and push your limits a little bit, it really helps you. So yeah. And I was happy that she was one of the people that came out this summer to see the comet from out in Metchosin. And we actually spent, I think, 3 or 4 nights out here just alone in the middle of that big field where the Star Party used to be, just her in her chair with her big binoculars and me with one of my scopes and trading views and just chatting over the evening or sitting in silence, which is often the way I like doing astronomy with other people, and just knowing that they're there and we're being in the same place, like inside the universe together. So yeah, it's pretty sad. And that's really all I have to say.
Can I share the screen with the picture from that evening?
Please.
So it says, Comet Neowise was quite beautiful tonight, spectacular through my 25 by 100 binos. The tail was long, the nucleus was small but bright, looking like a stationary searchlight, quite dramatic. So that was with you, Bill. And she wrote on her Facebook, I finally got my wish to see Comet Neowise from a dark site, bang, bang.
Again, thank you, everyone. We can always come back if people do realize there are things that haven't been said yet that they'd like to say. But maybe we could move on to Jim Cliffe had a question he would like to pose this evening and talk a little bit about astrophotography and I guess getting some new equipment. So Jim, if you're ready. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's kind of an unfortunate section to follow up on. I know I didn't really have a lot of connection with Diane, but every time I did cross paths with her, she was always a very delightful person to deal with. So yeah, shock and surprise, and very sad. But I did have one question I was hoping to put out to the members here. I've been doing astrophotography with my full frame Canon D5 or 5D. And I'm just debating now as to whether it would be a good idea to go to or to acquire a dedicated astro camera, like the ZWO series is one that I've been looking at. It's very similar to the Celestron Next Image series. And I was just wondering if anybody had any input on it. I'll just take a minute here and share the screen to show you some of my thinking. There. There we go. I've got the outlines here of a couple of the different frames, and just centering on Jupiter as an example. If we zoom in here, you can see the full frame on
Jim, we don't have the screen.
It didn't come up yet, Jim?
Oh, there we
Now
go.
it has.
Have to actually hit share on it, not just select a screen. Okay. Anyway, as I say, with this one, you can see there's the full frame on my 600 refractor, and then also the full frame on the 1800 SCT. If you could see Jupiter here, just as I say, using this as an example, it really gets lost in the full field. And the few attempts I've made, essentially I've got about a 10 or 20 pixel wide disc sitting in the middle of the full frame image, which doesn't really help a lot. But if I were to go to one of the ZWO series on the equivalent focal lengths, you can see that it would provide a quite a bit better image to work with. It's at least a significant portion of the field to work with. Now, I haven't been doing any stacking with the images that I have been using, mostly because of with the larger camera and system, it's just not been really overly practical. So I'm not too sure how I would proceed in that direction, but I have the feeling that that would be a little bit easier. But I just wanted to find out if anybody had any input on that and thoughts about going to the different type of camera.
So Jim, I recently did a very similar kind of analysis over this last year. As many of you know, I do a fair bit of kind of nightscape kind of shots. I haven't really done a lot of deep sky for a long time, and I wanted to. So coming from a digital SLR, I think today there are so many choices, like in terms of CMOS sensors. I can see a very natural transition for you. I mean, I can see you potentially going to a one-shot CMOS camera or something like that. That seems like the natural choice. I think for people that come from a digital SLR, it might be a little bit daunting from both the point of view of knowledge and also cash, because to kind of do it right, you're spending a fair bit of money. But there's lots of choice right now. Like for instance, I just invested in an ASI 183. That's a one shot. And even though I do have a mono camera that's probably way more expensive than it is, I found it was a very good choice coming from using the 60 DA that I was using a fair bit. And yeah, and you don't really, the other thing is with these CMOS sensors, you don't have to worry about not being able to use your photographic lenses, because there's all sorts of adapters available. So you could continue, if you have a favorite telephoto that you use, you can continue to do so. Also, I think the other thing that's really nice is that this next generation of CMOS sensors have extremely small pixels as well, which can be very helpful for small focal lengths. I found with the 183 paired with somewhere between a 200 and a 400 millimeter lens, you capture a lot of the really wide field objects like the Pleiades. I'm sure you've played with it, but that's the thing to do. If you have a target or a subject area that you want to pursue, look at the fields of view and test it out for yourself to see what you want to do, and also set yourself a budget too as well, because that's going to determine what you're going to be able to buy.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I have been doing or trying some broader skyscapes, such as the Orion Nebula and so on. And I have a 300 millimeter Canon lens that is very nice for the for that use, and also a 100 millimeter macro, which gives a very flat field and is quite nice for the broader views. But as I say, I was just thinking of getting something on some of the deep sky object or the planetaries that was just a little bit more than a pencil dot in the middle of a 35 millimeter screen. But that's good advice. I can look that over. Just as a curiosity, you mentioned CMOS. I'm assuming you're drawing the distinction between CMOS and CCD. I'm not really sure. I haven't really got into the.
There's a number of good articles out right now comparing CCD to CMOS. Particularly, I'm thinking of the YouTube video that the Attic camera company has produced. They've always been a big CCD advocate, and they've been really kind of slow to the mark coming into the CMOS market, which was mainly driven by people like ZWO. Now, there are differences, and I think if you watch that video, you'll learn a little bit about some of the differences. CCD, and I'm going to do some really broad strokes here. CCD will not have as many problems in terms of pattern noise, and it's generally accepted that if you use a CMOS sensor, you're going to be taking a lot more frames than you would with a CCD sensor. CCDs tend to be a little bit more expensive because the manufacturer is such that they throw away a lot more, so they become more expensive. CMOS, on the other hand, can produce plentiful numbers of sensors with very little defects.
Okay, that's good information. I know the technical differences to how they read out in the actual construction, but in terms of use, I was never really clear on.
But they're very popular for short exposure imaging. That's another trend. If you watch the presentation I did a couple of weeks ago on small refractor imaging, I talk a little bit about that as well.
Okay, I will look that up. Okay, well, thank you very much for the input. That's given me a lot more to think about. Thank you. I'll turn it back over here to Reg.
I'll turn it to Chris.
Does anybody else have any comments for Jim? Because I know there are some other ZWO cameras out there. Okay. So hopefully that will help. And I guess if you've got any questions, if you're on the RASC Vic list, you could always post questions if there are any. Reg, did you have anything to say about items that are on the website?
Okay, I'll try and share my screen, Chris. If I have any problems, you just step in there and rescue me. Go to this one here, and I'll push share, and I've got a row of people covering all of my controls here, so that's not good. Let's see here. I think I'll go here to first. So this is Diane's memorial, as you probably have looked at. Unfortunately, I put the Astronomy Cafe for today and demoted her down a little bit, kind of disrespectful. I wanted to show some stuff. Karun sent me this UVic Observatory open house this Wednesday at 7:30. Lisa Wells, who is a CFHT remote observer, will talk about a supernova project that she's involved in, but she will also describe certain aspects of using the Canadian French Hawaii telescope remotely. So that might be quite interesting. And the link is there. And then there's another link. Actually, I think I got this courtesy of Bill Weir. So thank you, Bill, for that. And it sounds really interesting. The research legacy of the Lowell Observatory. And I don't know if any of you've been there. It's right on very close to the lip of the Grand Canyon and Flagstaff. And it's a beautiful observatory to see and to see the historic 2-foot refractor there. So I encourage that. But there's an interesting story presentation by that. And that's going to take place next Monday and it's going to be 2 hours, and it's going to start at 5:30 p.m. and they're going to be polite enough to end by 7:30 p.m. so we can just move seamlessly into Astro Cafe. So that's one thing. And then the other is the Iris, Nebula, and Dust Clouds of Cepheus by Dan Posey. He was up in the lake, the Cowichan Valley. I think it was on Saturday. He had a couple of a clear night there, and he took a couple some pictures. And he's had so much fun and success with this little Ioptron Skyguider Pro. And this little dot in the center here is the Iris Nebula. And I wish we had Diane here. She could tell us what all these other features were. But we're missing her already there. At any rate, so some really beautiful shots by Dan, and really a lot of people have remarked about the dust clouds that he's picking up in all of these shots. So the universe is really quite a dirty spot. So at any rate, I don't think I've got any more that I'll really share right now. I think that should be it. So I'll try and stop the share and turn it back to you, Chris.
Great, thanks, Reg. Dave, did you have, I know you sent some photographs. I don't know if you wanted to try sharing them.
Yeah, they're not on this machine, so I don't have
Okay,
access to them. So.
that's fine. Let me, actually, let me just have a look and see if I can find them just while we're here. I guess they're still having some clear skies in Edmonton. So,
well, in between snowstorms.
yes, yeah, I guess winter has hit.
Yeah, they got about, my daughter's got about 18 inches of snow in the backyard.
Wow, yeah, that's, to see if I can do this here. Okay. Let's see, can we make that bigger? Well, it's not huge, but I think that will work, yeah. I don't know if you remember the order these are in, but let's see if I can make this work. This was
that's from Alistair.
Alistair, yeah.
Yeah.
And he loves those shots over the river.
Yes, and that's the moon. With underneath it is Mercury. With Venus way up at the top there. It's not showing up very well.
Let me see if I, there it is. Now I've lost some width. There we go.
And spike up, there it is at the top. And then off to the left at about 7 o'clock from the moon is Spica.
Oh, very neat. I like the color on the bridge too. That's nice.
Yeah. That's actually two bridges.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, the one with the arch is the new 5th Street Bridge, and the other one is the old railway 109th Street Bridge that has LED lights on it.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Arnold Rivera.
Yeah, that's the other night he picked up a comet. You can see down in Orion, that little fuzz ball down towards the bottom third in the middle. That's what the heck is the number of it there? I have to look it up.
What did you say it was? Yeah, this one? C20 M3?
Yeah, yeah, it's Atlas, M3 Atlas.
Yeah. There it is there.
And then he did it close up. To do it there, yeah.
Quite neat.
And that's Anwar's most recent shot of Mars. He just failed to catch the dust storm that has seemed to appear this last week in Mars. But that was taken early morning.
That's really turned out well too.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to see somebody's getting to see some things. Although it was a beautiful shot that Dan got as well. So
yeah, yeah.
I guess grab the opportunities when they present themselves.
I think that's what it is with the three from Edmonton is the guys took advantage of an opportunity that came along in between snowstorms and lousy cloud. You have to get out there, I guess.
Yes. Well, that's one of the things that I certainly learned from Diane, just to reflect back on that, because she was up there, and I think it was the, was it not the Star Party in 2018, where I think she was the only one who got some usable observations, because she got out there at one point, and there was a brief clearing.
That was about 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And that was during our cloud festival. And the cloud shield just broke up briefly, and she managed to nail a couple of objects right away. Relentless.
Very good. Well, does anybody else have anything else for this evening?
We just wanted to invite people, maybe Ben jump in too. We wanted to invite people for this coming Saturday night for our next FDAO Saturday Night Star Party. And our guest speaker is, roll the drums please, Randy Enkin. And Randy is going to, right, Randy, do you want to just talk a little bit about what your talk, oh, I want everybody to guess what Randy's talk is going to be on.
Mars.
Wrong.
The title is Selenophile or Lunatic.
Yeah.
30 years of observing and loving the moon.
Yeah. So he's going to show us lots of good things, and so if you'd like to join us, the Zoom link is Ben. Is it up on the website so yet, or
it's on our events page?
On events page.
I'm going to, as soon as I find it, I'm going to post it into the chat box.
Into the chat, and we'll also put up a Facebook as well. And
yeah.
we're hoping to get, oh, sorry, Ben. We're hoping.
No, you go ahead.
To get as well some more images. If it's a decent night, we're really working at trying to get live feed from the Plaskett telescope working, but it seems to me that the Reg, you can help me along here, that it's supposed to be, oh gosh, raining on Saturday night. So yeah, we may not be able to do that, but we'll try some pictures up. And
so we'll probably do that in December with our.
Yes.
We've been having one virtual star party a month. We've called it our Equinox to Solstice series, because they've been roughly being monthly, starting with the vernal equinox, autumnal equinox. Good afternoon. But I'm thinking ahead, because now we've done the Equinox to Solstice series. We're probably going to do the Solstice to Equinox series. Right. So winter to vernal. So what we are planning to do is just keep going. We have been trying to engineer internet access into the Plaskett Dome so that we can actually do some live streaming right from the telescope. Our general public, of course, loves to see the dome move. Never mind the sky. So, but if we can catch a few galaxies, we're going to do just that. This will allow us to go around and show astronomy all year round to the general public. So we're looking forward to making that work.
So I think I got it there for you, Ben. So I was.
Yes, I see that. Thank you.
That is the link that's there.
Oh yeah, right. I got distracted. Yes, that's right.
So that is what is in the chat there.
Yes, and right.
So hopefully that's
those
the
of
right
you who
one.
are on our mailing list will see a newsletter in your mailbox sometime in the next 12 hours.
And our program starts 7. So basically 7 to about 8:30 or so. Randy will be starting at around 25 after 7, right, Randy?
I'm told.
You're the boss.
They'll be
So-
standing by.
Yeah, so standing by. And James DeFrancesco is going to be at our solstice, our winter solstice party on I believe it's the 19th of
December.
I may have the wrong date.
No, you have the right.
Night. So
yeah, that's the date. So for our virtual star party, if we can't stream from the hill, we are showing some pictures taken by Dan using the plasket. So some of those are pretty special.
So thanks for all your support, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, and our gift shop is our online gift shop is also up. So if you'd like to buy a couple of nice little gifts for Christmas, just go on our website and our gift shop is going.
Yes. Lots of these.
Yes. Oh, can't see that. There we go.
Oh, there we are. Yes.
There's our little guys. Yeah. Oh dear.
Lots of little guys and interesting books and other astronomy trinkets that can be useful as little stocking stuffers or big stocking stuffers like this guy here.
And masks that Diane made. So
that too.
Well, thanks everybody.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention too. Anybody else have any announcements? And if not, I'll thank everybody for being here this evening. We'll be having another Astro Cafe on the 23rd. So if you do have questions or something you would like to present, please let me know. We'll send out the invite probably on Saturday or Sunday. But if you have a link for any of these, they should be the same. That's one of the ways that Zoom works. I've been meaning to mention that for a while. So if you don't see an email coming in, the link that you got for this meeting should work next time. It should actually be the same one each time. Great. So we'll take care, everyone, with growing numbers of infections on the island. We hope everybody stays safe and do your best to keep away from infected people, I guess. Thanks, everyone, for attending.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Night.